We're back. I'm Laura Flanders. Have you been hearing about Occupy Wall Street online? Have you been following the Twitter feed or hearing from your friends on Facebook? If so, you are part of the enormous global population who may not be here where we are in downtown Manhattan, but are watching from afar and getting pretty fired up. I'm joined by somebody who's been watching the social networking aspect of all this. He's Micah Sifry of the Personal Democracy Forum. Micah, you've been following the numbers. I've been looking at some of the dials of viewers on the live stream that the great independent media folks here have been putting out. They had 20,000 people watching the arrests on Brooklyn Bridge this weekend. It's pretty incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but it's a function of just how wired and networked this occupation is. I mean, I think we've all realized that there's been dry tinder out there, and the question was not just where would the spark come from, but then how would it spread. And it's really been interesting for me to see after the first 2 weeks where things were relatively quiet. I think, you know, the pepper spray incident, which was caught on YouTube and spread, which dramatized, you know, the brutal police response in that instance and drew more attention to this protest. The key in that moment was how sophisticated the folks here are in how they're using social media. They understand that you need to really be open to lots of ways of sharing a message. There is no system here for authorizing whether or not somebody gets to start an Occupy group or try and spread an Occupy message. Anybody can do it. The ones that are truly viral, that are organic, that are plugged into what resonates with people are the ones that are spreading. And just in the last 3 days, on Facebook alone, which happens to be one of the prime organizing vehicles, I've seen the number of Occupy X sites go from a handful to more than 200 as of last night. That's mostly American cities, but also around the world. And we've built some tracking tools with some help from volunteers at techpresident.com, the blog we run. And the number as of last night was over 400,000 people who had you know, signed up on one of those Facebook pages. It doesn't mean that every single one of those is an occupation. Some of them are people getting together to talk about meeting in their city. But we're talking about every major American city and many smaller ones in many states.
And how does this relate to the Personal Democracy Forum? I mean, in terms of activism, but also in terms of demands, issues being raised, where are the connections?
Well, you know, Personal Democracy Forum, PDF, was started 8 years ago when we saw the first flowering of politics in the United States of net-powered, bottom-up politics. A lot of it came up in the Netroots movement, which was grassroots activists inside the Democratic Party who were upset that their leaders were not showing any spine in the rush to the war, the invasion of Iraq. And they rallied around new faces like Howard Dean, for example, and new websites like Daily Kos, which are now major hubs for progressive democratic politics. And we've been saying all along that these tools, they don't have a politics. They're open to everybody to use. And it was just a question of when the large number of people who I think are hurting under this economy and sensing that the inequalities of the system have grown so unfair, when they would finally sort of take these matters into their own hands.
So is it a sort of irony that even as we raise an alarm about the separation between rich and poor, the gap between the haves and the have-nots, the 99 versus the 1%, we have more equally available new technology than we ever did before? Or are we in denial about how much of a gap, a digital divide still exists?
Well, you know, I would argue that compared to the broadcast system, capital-intensive media, this is a much more democratic and open media. It doesn't mean that everybody can do it. You still need some technology, you still need some smarts, you need the luxury of a certain amount of free time. So I'm not saying that there isn't a digital divide, but compared to what we had before, this is a much more open system. And 20,000 people watching the event live, they don't need corporate media necessarily to find out about information that's important to them. They can see and spread it with their own eyes and their own hands. Now, the challenge is, in this age of democratized and networked media, is focusing around things that are meaningful and not just getting so many voices talking that we can't hear each other.
The irony here is we're now witnessing, if you can hear it, the communications tool of the Occupy Wall Street folks, who, having been banned by the police from using megaphones or any means of amplification, have devised this mic check system of communication where one will speak, everyone will repeat. This is kind of the perfect combination of multi-technology, very highly advanced tech, and very basic but effective communicating.
It's effective at this size. One of the questions I have is how this scales beyond what you can fit in a space that's roughly the size of a football field. And eventually they will go, I think, to other systems, including online. I mean, what's amazing about, to me, this General Assembly process is that people are also documenting it as fast as they can, putting minutes up online, making it possible for other people to check in and participate in other ways. And I think there's also something else interesting, which is a patience about the process. You and I, we're used to, everything moving really fast, decisions getting made quickly, and there's something to that, but there's also something to being patient and letting certain things ferment. You might call this slow democracy, like the slow food movement or the slow news movement. And we don't know where exactly it's going to go, but it's clearly a movement now. This is the key point I really think is interesting about the time we're in now. We're moving from a period of organization politics, where things tend to happen within walls, messages are managed by professionals, money is raised to pay people to do things, boards decide, there are all kinds of structures to organizational politics, and now it feels like we're entering a movement phase where lots of people are basically saying, I can do things, I am going to join in. And the Occupy model, what's so interesting to me about it is how it's as open as the internet is, right? Anybody can link in, and that's why it's spreading.
And the same thing is happening in our independent media too. You can embed the stream that you're watching right now on your own website, on your own page. Please share this coverage on your Facebook page. And if you want to think about how we build this, think about how we fund it. If you want to make a contribution to this kind of coverage, you can do it right there at Free Speech TV and all the linked sites. We're doing this thanks to your contributions. Thanks for your support. Thanks for your continuing attention to this field, Micah, and we will continue our coverage right after this. Introduce you as